Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. My name is Jess Lisi. I am the Partnerships and Events Manager here at DASA. And today I'm excited to welcome you to the kickoff episode of our Platform Engineering mini-series, The Challenges of Platform Engineering. I am delighted to introduce to you our speakers for today's episode. I would like to welcome Marco Pierbon, who is the lead developer at ThoughtWorks, and Marisa Martin Serrano, who is the lead technical product manager at ThoughtWorks, as our distinguished guest for today. Marco, Marisa, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction. So in this meetup, we will be discussing what are the most common challenges of the platform team and a few tips and tricks to overcome them. A bit of background, this talk or these slides are based on a reflection session that we did some time ago with a platform team. There we found topics or themes that were very specific to our clients or to our team setup. But then we also found some common themes in platform engineering and platform teams, especially, what are those common challenges? Back to you, Marco.
Thanks, Marisa. So my name is Marco. I'm Italian born, but I'm based in southern Spain. I've been in ThoughtWorks for almost 4 years, working on a number of different projects and trying to get as much as possible exposed to platform engineering. Marisa?
I'm Marisa Martin Serrano, originally from Sevilla, south of Spain, now based in Madrid, also in Spain. I'm a lead technical product manager at ThoughtWorks. I've been with ThoughtWorks for over 2 years and a half. Previous to that, or prior to that, I have many years, like nearly 20 years of international experience. And during most of my career, I work with platform teams or infrastructure teams. So in this talk, we are going to review what are these common challenges. We are going to share with you some of the tips or the tricks that have worked for us in the past. And then we are going to zoom into product engineering or like platform product engineering practices and product thinking. We have structured this talk or this presentation in the four product management pillars. So we have technology, we have users, we have the organization that our platform product lives in, and then we have the platform teams that are responsible for this platform and this platform engineering. Regarding technology, and I think I will leave this to you, Marco.
Thank you. Thank you, Marisa. So the main set of challenges around platform engineering are first the different tech stacks and technologies a platform team needs to face on their day-to-day. They need to provide support to development teams that are using different frameworks, different framework versions, different tech stacks, and most often they're not aligned among each other. So we might have a team on the bleeding edge and another team that is 4 or 5, even 10 versions behind. Related to this, the technical landscape is changing very rapidly, and it's difficult to keep up, especially if a platform team has to support those many languages and frameworks. And for instance, you need to stay up to date on what's new in Java, in .NET, what the security risks are, what the benefits of upgrading are. Then many companies have a lower technological maturity, meaning that they don't have those enterprise architecture frameworks or those councils where they unite and present a common front to solve the same problem over and over, but much rather they delegate each team to find their own solution to their niche problems, and they don't share the learnings across different teams and different departments. Finally, we have the vendor lock-in risk and challenge, which means that when a team sets on a technology, it's very, very difficult to backtrack from that because that team will have built their entire solution around that piece of tech, around the cloud, or around a specific provider. meaning that the moment you want to abstract that to use it in a different scenario, in a different team, or in a different client, that becomes much, much harder. Next slide, please. So how do we solve the myriad of technologies problem? We solve that by having a product ecosystem, meaning that we have sort of internal products or an internal platform that the teams can then implement and utilize. They can look for possibilities for extending them. They can come up with suggestions so that they better fit their own use cases, but always starting with the idea of having an internal direction. You then want to treat these internal products and platforms with a portfolio management strategy, meaning that they are ruled by a roadmap. They are ruled by those life cycle patterns where we decide when we want to create a new service, when we want to retire a new service, or when we just want to make it do more things than it's currently doing. When it comes to selecting a new technology that we haven't used yet, we need to have clear, defined metrics for product evaluation, meaning that we only accept to use a product or a service if it matches the expectation the company has. And those expectations are defined beforehand. They're not defined on a product by product basis, but we already know how they should look like and what we really require. And we need to have a governance process in place for this, meaning that there's a committee, there's a responsible person or responsible group that will meet recurringly and will approve or veto certain product implementation decisions. Finally, if we want to avoid the risk of the vendor lock-in, this needs to be a very willing choice because it comes with trade-offs, but there are ways to mitigate the risk of vendor lock-in, and this is by using vendor agnostic technology. So for instance, if we think about we don't want to have a lock-in on any specific cloud provider, we could use a technology such as Dapper, or we could use Terraform if we don't want to get locked in into CloudFormation or Biceps and be able to reuse the same piece of tech across different stacks. Next one, please. Now I'll cede the word to my lovely colleague, Marisa.
Yeah. So regarding users, and I think this is common to products that are developed for like internal users. So regarding users, it's hard to build the product having that user centricity in mind. So instead of thinking about platforms or engineering platform as a set of different technologies, think of them as a product that is going to fulfill by means of its capability some user needs. So always try to put users at the core or design and implement your product around that user. Having that user centricity is something that we commonly or we find quite often in the platform team. So there is not a role, or there are not roles such as product owner for these platform products or product manager for these platform products. As Marco mentioned, you have that myriad of different technologies that you have to integrate, and this technology might not even be designed or implemented to be integrated in a seamless manner. So it's very hard to build that consistent experience. So imagine that you are running your workloads on Kubernetes on the cloud, and then you have to find out why it's not working as expected. So if you imagine that visually, you will likely have in your internet browser many different tabs with I don't know the tool that you might use for your for running your workload or monitoring your workload, such as I don't know a Kubernetes dashboard, Rancher, or so. You might have some tools as Grafana and such. You might have yet another tool to see what's happening in your pipelines and tools for logs and monitoring. So to build that consistent experience, to provide that single interface to user is something that is hard. It's also hard when you consider that our users are developers typically, or data scientists and such, and they do have a strong technical background. Yet, the platform related or the engineering platform related tools and products are not famous because they are very, they have usability and simplicity at heart. So to reduce the underlying complexity and to provide that usability and simplicity for our engineering platform products is also one of the key challenges, something that we struggle. And here is the irony, because our users or the users of this engineering platform are most of the time internal user. Somewhat we lack of this useful feedback and insight, so we don't understand how they are using our internal engineering platform. We don't understand how they are what challenges they are facing, what capabilities they are missing. So we are lacking that feedback and insight from them. So how can we overcome this? So regarding user centricity, we can take best practices from product management and user experience. So we can design that user experience for our internal users. So typically, we can think of main few main experiences, like how our users discover our platform, how they start interacting with it, how they do run like a proof of concept, how they play with it without committing to it. How is this onboarding experience? How is the experience of using on regular basis our platform, uh, managing or upgrading to the latest platform version? So we can approach or we can overcome that lack of user centricity by applying best practices from user experience design and product management. How we can provide that consistent experience in a product that is based on many integrations of many different products from many different vendors with a different state of maturity. So we can try to really work on this seamless integration, approaching them from the user experience. So we have defined these few experience, and we can also use a tool like this internal developer portal. So with this internal developer portal, we are providing that single interface where our platform users, our internal engineering platform users can consume the platform capabilities from one single interface that is, quite intuitive and such. Regarding usability and simplicity, we can overcome that by curating the developer experience. So, bringing best practices from user experience to the developer experience space. We have to work on providing the right level of abstraction from the underlying technology, and this is something that can vary from organization to organization. It can also vary in the same organization across different teams, and we can also work on providing that safety net. That safety net is made out of resource limits and quotas, like a golden path for the most common workflows or the most common use cases and the scenario. Is also by providing capabilities such as if we operate in a heavily regulated environment, providing some capabilities out of the box in our platform to be compliant with that. So to create that set of capabilities that provide that safety net for users, so internal developers, internal data scientists, to use our platform in a safe manner. How can we work against that lack of feedback and insight? So we really have to create those communities. It can be like a platform communities, a community of practices by Java, data science, or so. We also have to work actively on the user engagement and satisfaction. So we have to notice, what are the usage patterns for our platform. We have to collect proactively feedback, like running survey, and running interviews, running focus group with our user community. Back to you, Marco.
Right. Okay, so when we look at the organizational challenges, we can find three main categories. The first one is the lack of insights into the direction the organization is aiming at. So what the roadmap will look like for the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years. What are the necessary building blocks that the platform teams need to be able to provide on time for those items or those epics in the roadmap to be delivered satisfactorily. There's then the problem about misconceptions for platform teams, what a platform team is supposed to be and what a platform team is supposed to be doing. Is the platform team supposed to be working on a reactive manner, always ready to put out fires or to fulfill any request on a whim? Or is a platform team supposed to have an internal roadmap and work according to the plan? We then have, and if you can go to the next slide, Marisa. We then have a distrust of what platform technologies are, where we have internal stakeholders that are not especially tech savvy and they don't understand the value that a platform team provides. So how do we solve these? In terms of the lack of insights, we need to make sure that the platform team is interfacing with the development teams, meaning that we need to have an internal figure, such as a technical product owner that talks constantly with the development teams and make sure that the roadmaps are in sync. This means that there has to be an internal planning at the platform team level, and from there, the roadmap for the development teams should cascade. The platform team also needs to constantly showcase and prove its value by means of internal demos and metrics, especially making sure that there's a good return on investment on the initiative and efforts that the platform team has undertaken. To captivate non-tech savvy stakeholders, there are a lot of important initiatives a platform team can focus on, such as FinOps, essentially reducing the cost of running the workloads in the cloud, GreenOps, making sure that the carbon footprint of the tech division of the company is reduced as much as possible, uh, bleeding edge practices such as SRE and having good practices for security, governance, and compliance that are aligned to the market standards. Next one. Now,
Yep. So we have an interesting question from Marian, and I think we can answer it. So how do we showcase value and return of investment, I guess, of platform teams, especially in the creation or forming phase? Your thoughts, Marco?
sorry, I didn't see the question. Do you want to go
It's
first?
on the comments. Yeah, I can go.
Ah,
So how do we showcase return of investment? I think there are two accelerated, I mean, like two really good metrics. One is value delivery acceleration. So thanks to having this, internal engineering platform, we have fasten up or we have accelerated the delivery. So imagine that we wanted to increase. So from the organization point of view, we wanted to expand to, I don't know, a different region. And we forecasted that we will, gain this much money. So because we have this internal central platform, we were able to, or we could deliver that let's say 3 months in advance. So then you will do the math. So there is one related to accelerated delivery. So how the platform team and the platform product is helping the organization and its team to achieve value earlier, which is like a monetary metric. Then you have another metric that is related to another quality or another attribute of a platform or a good platform, and is based on the reliability and stability of the platform. And I always use this example. So imagine that you are running an e-commerce, your organization key product is an e-commerce, and last year during Black Friday, you lost like, I don't know, a percentage of sales because your product, your e-commerce product, could not cope with the increased number of requests. Thanks to investing in platform capabilities such as scalability or even like a rate limiting and such, this situation did not happen on this year Black Friday. So you can also do those calculations. But I think these are like good monetization metrics that are quite appealing to higher management. Your thoughts, Marco?
I think you covered it very well.
And yet, of course, there are other like softer metrics that could be like developer satisfaction. So thanks to having a platform that works seamlessly, thanks to all the automation, to all the tools and so on, developers can invest more time in what is the core of their activity. There is less friction. There is more happiness, more satisfaction, and you can even link that to attrition rates. So how much you are retaining talent in your organization. So you have like a very, I don't know, mathematic, very money-driven metrics, but you also have like this set of, soft metrics that are related to the developer experience, for instance. Okay. So what are the challenges that we or like those who work in platform teams face? So they have a high cognitive load, and this high cognitive load, like really, is a layer and comes. I mean, it really comes in many layers. So you have the cognitive load, so the amount of information, technology, knowledge that about someone working in a platform team has to, retain is due to the platform technology. So imagine that you have to support different cloud providers, open source products, third-party products or so. So this is like a large inventory of things that we have to keep in your head. You have another cognitive load that is derived from the stack that your platform is supporting. So imagine that you have to support C++, .NET, Java, Angular, as DB, Postgres, Mongo, Cassandra, and so on. So this is a cognitive load that is derived from the product that is built and that runs in your platform. So imagine your e-commerce. And then in some cases, you also have a high cognitive load from the business. So even though platform teams are typically not so involved or should not be so much aware of, I mean, the different business rules or so, because they actively work with different teams and there are no clear boundaries between product teams, business team, and platform team. There is also this cognitive load. There is always the tendency to, platform teams should be actively working most of their time developing this platform product, this internal engineering platform. However, many times we find ourselves like firefighting, like, there is, an error in production or one of our system is down. So instead of, building or continuing with our backlog or roadmap, we have to switch to more operational work. There is also additional work that might come from like a request from business. So this is something that at the beginning I thought it was very weird, but then it seems also to be a pattern that is because cloud providers and third-party providers can provide enough capabilities out of the box. Platform teams sometimes have to build a business capability, let's say, I don't know, a report for the sales team, just, integrating these cloud capabilities. This is something that is not in the core of the platform team's mission, vision, roadmap, backlog or so, but it comes it comes as an additional workload. Something that is also very common in platform team, and I think my is or like at least in my opinion is one of the causes for so much rotation in platform teams or like in this in profile related such as DevOps, platform engineers, SRAs and so on, is that feeling of disconnection from the organization, from the business, like whatever we are producing doesn't seem to be aligned with the with our organization mission, vision, goals, targets, and such. So, how can we overcome this challenge? Uh, for the high cognitive load, we can put governance in place and we can put it at many levels. We can put it at the level of the platform uh, technology stack, so we can decide, instead of supporting many cloud providers, just support as many as needed. Instead of having different tools from monitoring, logging, and so on, we can try to reduce that, and we can review those decisions. And we can implement this process for selecting the right platform technology for us. And we also need to implement it at least at the tech stack level. So joining forces with the different tech, dev, product teams, put that governance in place. So instead of supporting like many different languages or many different type of databases or many different architectural patterns, decide which one are more suitable to our product, to our organization, and then put that governance around. We can also invest on defining the team API. So essentially, a team API defines what is the mission and vision of a team, what is the set of product and processes that are owned and supported by this team, and how they interact with other teams. Setting these clear boundaries, and these boundaries, it's an iterative process of refining and refining them. We can also reduce the cognitive load for platform teams. To move away from the firefighting mode, again, defining this team API, focusing also on this principle of, you build it, you run it. Also shifting responsibility or the operational responsibility also to product and dev teams. We also need to do a little self-investment to improve our processes, to improve our tools, to select, for instance, best tool for monitoring, for implementing like a fault tolerance or redundancy by default. And also we have to invest on enabling developers so that to really empower developers so that they have all the tools that they require to run, to develop, to put in production, and to run their own products. Regarding the additional workload, we can put processes in place. We can also define that team API, and we have to learn how to delegate. So typically in a large organization, you will have the platform team, but you will also have what we call like adjacent team. So you will have teams that are very much focused on communication, security, and so on. So learning what is the role of each of these teams and how they interact with each other, and learning how to delegate activities or processes or products to the team that is best to own it is, can also contribute to reduce that additional workload. What can we do to fight against that feeling of disconnection? So we can build different dev and platform communities where we can also use them to understand what is going on at the product level, at in the dev community and in our organization. We can also align the roadmap to the goals of our own organization. And I always put this example. So imagine that your organization is in the fast growth phase. So in this sense, your platform roadmap should reflect that. So you should see initiatives that are to deploy faster to production, that are to improve some processes to reduce that lead time. Imagine, on the contrary, that your organization is in a valley. So in that valley, it might be the good time to implement the best FinOps, SRE, and many other practices to bring that strong foundation for your platform. Imagine, on the other hand, that your organization, like it happens last year or so, is going through a rough patch. So there is like a good time to implement or to really focus on FinOps practices. So this is, whatever is happening to in your organization, whatever the goals and the OKRs for your organization are, try to align the platform roadmap to help your organization to achieve those objectives, and be in the state your roadmap should be in the state that your organization is. We can also, or we should also do the calculation of what is the return of investment, and how the platform return of investment is contributing to our organization objectives and key results. Back to you, Marco.
Right. So looking at the practices we can carry over from Agile into the platform teams, we can start by thinking of having a clear understanding of who our client is, what drives them, what are their pain points, what are their goals and aspirations. And by doing this, we really understand what we should be building. This will allow us to have a faster release cycle and ask for quicker feedback on our new pieces of work. On the same note, it's important to understand that we are starting with an MVP, even at the platform level, meaning that we will provide the basic level of functionality that the development teams are needing, and we will iterate building on them. Again, understanding what the client wants and providing phased iterations. It's also important to understand what success looks like. Is completing a delivery success? Is a happy client, in this case, the development team, a good definition of success? Is the adoption rate a good definition of success? We need to have it very clear from the get-go and measure. Every time we deliver, we need to make sure that if user satisfaction is important for us, that it doesn't go down. User adoption, if it's important for us, it cannot go down. It's important to know that we are building good quality software, but that we are also building the right one that the user wants. Next one, please. Then, when we think about the software development life cycles, we have some practices from development that are not always implemented in a platform team. The first one we can think about is testing. Although it's not as easy as testing development code, we can also test infrastructure. If we think, for instance, about Terraform code, we can have unit tests, integration tests, end-to-end tests. We can make those tests part of the pipeline. We can make sure that we don't accept code that does not get enough code coverage or that does not have the right level of testing. We can provision testing infrastructure as part of our pipeline and make the build fail if the infrastructure is not meeting the requirements of the platform team. We can then constantly deliver new functionality without the risk of breaking existing infrastructure and applications by using feature toggles. meaning that we can activate certain functionalities only on certain environments for certain clients or just for specific users. This will allow us to push new code without having to wait for green lights from all the parties involved and without the risk, or at least lessening significantly the risk of breaking existing functionality. We then need to think about abstractions. There's a concept in software development called leaky abstraction, which happens when the implementation details of an abstraction leak into the upper level. This makes the user of the abstraction in an impossible situation where they need to understand both the abstraction layer and the underlying one. When this happens, we failed in devising the right level of abstraction. So it's important to understand the use cases we have in mind for our development teams and make sure that what we are building serves them well without having to expose underlying implementation details. It's also important to have a clear definition of done. When are we done with our development? When we pushed a new package internally? When we released our new code into an internal environment? When a certain threshold of our clients, aka the development teams, are adopting the new version? This needs to be very clear, because otherwise we will be pushing new and new versions, but we wouldn't understand when the work is done. And if the work is not done, we'll have to always keep going back to it to fix bugs or to provide hot patches instead of focusing on what's coming next. Next, please, Marisa. The last section from this domain comes from team topologies. So in team topologies, we define the main types of teams, and there's one where the team acts as an enabler. So in certain situations, a platform team has to act as such. These situations are most often when the development teams do not have the necessary experience to deploy frequently to production, to maintain a 24/7 support, or they don't know, for instance, how to operate cloud infrastructure in an automated way. And when platform teams accept to act as enablers, they need to do it with a caveat that this is only on a temporary basis. This is only up until the development teams is self-sufficient in those regards, and they still retain the ownership for those activities, even when the platform team is helping them. The next one is about having some core building blocks uh, where we provide some functionality that then the development team can take and customize. This allows for usability. This allows for development team to be independent as much as possible in their development. We can then take concepts from domain-driven design, whereby the infrastructure follows the same split. So we have a good separation between different domains in terms of infrastructure, and every domain is self-defined and self-contained and can be updated and deployed in an independent manner. Once this happens, we can then lead the way for having truly independent dev streams where the developers do not need to wait for the platform team or the infrastructure engineers to come in and build some additional infrastructure resources for them. They should be able to take a new piece of functionality, implement it, and deploy it without any intervention from the platform team. Back to you, Marisa.
So I'm going to run quickly through this section. So as we mentioned, a platform product, an internal engineering platform is not a single product per se, but rather or it should be the seamless integration of many products. So for this, we can apply best practices from portfolio management. So we can build that abstraction. That abstraction can be by means of SDKs, APIs, a developer portal on the top of that set or that myriad of very complex and very uh, diverse, very different technology. We should also apply service management practices. So to define SLAs, SLOs for our support and operations. We also need to identify what value is bringing our internal engineering platform product to the organization and to the different customer or user segment. We have to build that enterprise foundation, and this is a key way to deliver value. So if, for instance, our organization is in a heavily regulated environment like transportation, defense, medical, or pharmaceutical, we can build out of the box those capabilities like regarding data retention, regarding data residency and such. And this foundation can be that safety net that we provide to our users, so developers, data scientists, and also to our organization. We have to build enterprise grade capabilities, meaning that we not only have to address the needs of individual users, but we have to address it at the organization, at the level of our organization, at the level of our enterprise, and also that these capabilities need to have enough level of maturity. So they have to be curated experience, curated services, and such. And finally, that service management also extrapolated to operations. We need to understand and we need to invest on understanding who are our users. So for these roles as technical product managers, technical POs are key. And if you don't have the luxury of having it within your platform team, at least address or at least be involved in these activities. So we have to understand who are our users. A typical good segmentation in internal engineering platform is by tech stack or tech stack, domain, and level of maturity. So, for instance, you will have the business domain where we have to provide like capabilities such as for business intelligence and such. You might also have the data domain where we have to provide capabilities for data integration, data mesh, and such. You will have the more traditional or the most common case of web development, mobile development, and so on. So these can be different segmentation that are good to identify who are our users and how to group them to understand what are their common needs. We also need to understand how they use our platform. So we have to sit down with them and things like surveys, interviews, on-the-job shadowing are key activity to understand how our users, developers, data scientists use our platform. Whenever we do a new release, whenever we do a new version of our internal engineering platform product, we have to deliver value. So if we are asking them, especially when there is a breaking change release, if we are asking them to upgrade to the newer version, we have to showcase and we have to have built a new value. So for instance, if you upgrade to the newer version or if you migrate to the newer platform, you will get like a resiliency out of the box or data retention policy, configurable data retention policy. So every each release, we have to build that additional incremental value and we have to showcase it. And we are done here. We would love to hear your feedback. If you have any question, we typically update them at the end. So you will get the full presentation with the Q&A at the end of this one. Back to you, Jessica.
Great. Oh, thank you both so much. That was just incredibly illuminating. I think it's interesting to see how the different teams are involved in the platform engineering ecosystem and how it just goes beyond the platform engineering team, but requires a concerted effort to build strong holistic foundations to ensure the seamless adoption of platform engineering and to enable the developers. So I want to quickly put on the screen some key takeaways from today. It was, like I said, it was really interesting just to see how it spans across not only your development team, data scientists, but also the technology integration, portfolio management, product governance, experience management, and just so much more. It's such a multifaceted approach across these different teams. And I actually think what surprised me the most was to learn how that strong platform engineering team also requires a strong portfolio management to build that roadmap. So I would really like to thank Marco and Marisa for this episode. On the screen, you'll see some great key takeaways. Some highlights are focused on how aligning your platform roadmaps with organizational objectives, focusing on DevX and user experience, and developing a strong portfolio strategy, all of which are really important to build strong platform engineering teams. And if you are inspired by today's episode and want to learn more about platform engineering, we encourage you to check out the DASA Platform Engineering Certification Program and Product Suite. You can find more information on the DASA Platform Engineering Certification Program on our website at dasa.org. I've also posted a link to it in the chat, so you can access it directly from there. We also have portfolio management as a certification programs now that we're mentioning how integrated they are. And yeah, I'd like to thank all of you for joining our first episode of the Platform Engineering mini-series. Our next episode is next week on September 10th at 5 o'clock Central European Summer Time, so a little later than this one. And the topic will be on measuring and communicating value realization. So I want to thank you all again, and see you next time. And thank you, Marisa. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Have a blast.
See you guys.
All right. And